Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of our podcast. It's finally here. I'm Justin,
I'm Alex.
and we are so happy to bring out this first episode for you guys. Sorry for the little delay we've been having. We've just been a little busy with our schedule and whatnot, but it's
Forgetting memory cards.
forgetting memory
Yeah.
cards and low battery charges.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's finally here, and what better than to do it in the season of spooky times
Yeah,
and
yeah, get this out
the
for
Halloween
Halloween.
season. So just to give you guys a little bit about ourselves, since
First
this is our
episode,
first
yeah.
episode. Like I said, I'm Justin, so I'm pretty much a big horror movie junkie. I just love binge watching horror. I love anything horror with like slashers and just old like 80s 90s classics. I'm really big into like the 2000s classics too and whatnot. But yeah, pretty much I'm just some man just watching a bunch of horror movies and love binge watching them.
Yeah. Well, I'm Alex. I'm a film student, so I love all things film and especially horror movies. They're a ton of fun just to watch and create. And Justin came to me with this podcast and said I need a guy who has a microphone, and I said, well,
what better yet to have somebody who's a horror movie junkie and then somebody who's also a film major to do a horror podcast together. So I had to come to you, man, for it.
there you
So,
go.
but yeah.
Yeah, it works out,
But
man.
yeah, so that's just a little bit about ourselves. A little rusty on this, but as soon as some episodes pick up, I'm sure we can get it rolling. But for this being our first episode, the first movie we're going to be reviewing and talking about is House of a Thousand Corpses. Ooh, classic Rob Zombie film. The actual first Rob Zombie film too.
Pretty good movie.
Yes, I think it is. It's actually his first film
I didn't know that, really. This first movie ever.
is House of a Thousand Corpses. But
That's
yeah,
cool.
House of a Thousand Corpses is directed by Rob Zombie. It's a 2003 horror comedy. It's about an hour and 28-minute film. It has an amazing cast too. Sherry Moon Zombie and Sid Haig, Bill Moseley, and then you also got Rainn Wilson from was it The Office?
The Office,
And
yeah.
Chris Hardwick, which I never just Chris Hardwick being so young in that movie at the time.
Yeah, I get
I
what
did
you
not
mean.
even realize it was Chris Hardwick, so threw me off. But yeah, it has a wonderful cast in this movie. The movie ratings are pretty surprisingly low.
They're a little mixed.
Yeah, I was gonna say a little mix because IMDb gave it a 6 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 21%, and then the audience score gave it a 65.
Yeah, I would say that the movie didn't reach like mainstream success. Like it's not a very mainstream
Right.
movie that the general audience would like, but it has its own cult following, and it's not a bad movie. It's just not the kind of movie that would appeal to mass audiences, I would say, which is why you would get that kind of score.
I think Rob Zombie also had a troubled time releasing this movie because it gave a lot of controversy too, because with how realistic the violence and gory pieces and scenes of that film and like violence and harassment that was taking place in that movie too, like not actually
Yeah, not on set.
pretty much like just the base of the movie itself is just was a lot of bad things happening at once.
It's a pretty gritty movie. The thing that's more scary about it is not so much your typical horror jump scares, but more the real grounded horror of it. The fact that like this is something that could realistically happen up until the very end.
Right.
Of course.
But even though this movie had a lot of controversy, the budget that they put on this film was $7 million, and the box office made 16.8 million.
Yeah, so it was
So
successful.
it made
back.
some good money.
Definitely.
But yeah, the movie was just very controversial at the time. But now it's just like this movie is just amazing, and just a
Definitely.
classic as it is, and just being Rob Zombie's first film. I think they had a showing for it recently, like a 20-year special or something in theaters that they released this movie again in theaters and whatnot. But yeah, we're just gonna jump right into this movie and just talk about?
So, it opens with a pretty misleading scene, I would say. It opens with a scene about a clown, like kind of a grotesque clown who's running a carnival sideshow gas station, selling knickknacks and curiosities, and he has this strange horror ride. And these two guys break in and essentially try to rob him. And the way the scene plays out, the clown ends up getting the upper hand and kills them. And honestly, fantastic scene. Sets the tone very
Definitely
well.
sets
and
the tone of the
excellent
movie.
performance from what's his name again?
Sid Haig.
Sid Haig, right.
R.I.P. to that legend. He was such a good actor.
Excellent scene. It's really well done.
Fuck your grandma.
Yeah, so after that we're introduced to our four main characters, and forgive me if I don't remember all their names. They are very generic main characters. Not to
It's Bill, Jerry, Mary, and Denise.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm okay.
Good thing I got a list right here of all the cast and characters.
No, but I mean, character-wise, they are very generic characters. There's not a
Right.
whole lot of depth to them. They're your typical horror movie bait, essentially. And so they're on a road trip, and they end up stopping at this sideshow with the clown. And they take this horror ride where he introduces them to the myth of Dr. Satan, who was a Satanist in the area who was hung nearby. And so Rainn Wilson and Chris Hardwick want to go investigate it because they're writing a book about sideshow curiosities, and, this sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They go to investigate it, the four of them, and they end up getting... What happens to them?
They pretty much,
They get their tire gets blown out.
pretty much.
Yeah, so they end up getting... Yeah, they get in a kerfunkel. Yeah, so their tire gets blown out by a member of this nearby kind of sadistic, cannibalistic, I don't know, like evil, twisted backwater family, who are the main antagonists of the film. And they're wonderful. They're all, I mean, not in your typical sense, but I mean in an acting sense, in a
They're very
direction
wonderful
sense.
people.
I mean their characters are really interesting and honestly steal the show every scene they're in. So the basis of the movie is that these four characters, these young 20-something-year-olds on a road trip, get trapped and tortured by this weird family. They this family of... Well, tell me about the family, Justin. You know better about them than I do.
Man, okay.
Just give me a brief rough rundown of each of them.
So we got like Sherry Moon's character, Baby, who's quite a character, I would say. She did really good with just being a psychopath as it is in that film.
Her character was very annoying, but
Very
she played
annoying,
it
very
very well.
bipolar,
Very
very
yes, very
psychopath.
bipolar, very bright and bubbly at times, and then psychopathic ex-girlfriend the next,
So we got like Bill Moseley's character, which was Otis Beedrift.
Otis. Yeah.
And he was like this... I don't know, just like this...
Well, he's kind of like the leader of the family.
Yeah, pretty much. Like this loudmouth, rambunctious, like political fucking...
Yeah, he's the kind of guy who has this... Your Charles Manson type.
Yeah.
This kind of psychopath who has this radical idea that he thinks he's such a genius for seeing, and that other people are just sheep to be slaughtered for not seeing it,
Pretty
essentially.
much. And then we got like Mother Firefly and Tiny and RJ.
Yeah, some other really
Grandpa
interesting
Hugo.
family. Grandpa Hugo, classic. He does a stand-up bit in the movie where he just screams about eating pussy. And just like in the like crackhead at McDonald's type, and Chris Hardwick is just fucking loving it. He's clapping and laughing.
3 minutes of him screaming and just talking about like eating pussy and just
It's on
throwing
my
up the middle finger.
on my first watch, I was really uncomfortable watching it. I was kind of like Rainn Wilson and the girls in the movie watching it, just very uncomfortable and not sure what to do with myself. But upon second and third viewings of it, I find myself more like Chris Hardwick, where I'm cracking up with the old guy, just enjoying this actor giving his absolute all in this one scene.
I can't count how many times I've watched this movie, but every time that scene comes on, like I'm just laughing all the time because it's just so out of pocket.
Right. Yeah, so this family, they capture the four the four people, and they actually kill Rainn Wilson's character pretty early on. They carve him up
I
and
was
turn him
so
into a
surprised with
mermaid.
that because I thought he would be a pretty big
I was
character in
too.
the
He was
movie.
kind of poised to be like the leader of this group of main characters, because he was, when the tire was blown out, he was the one that went out to check on it. He was the one that went to the house with Baby to check out how things were and ask for help. He was the one that initiated the conversation with the clown all the way back at the gas station. And yeah, he gets killed like, I would say maybe halfway through the movie, if not sooner.
Yeah, because I
But
think
it does
yeah,
make for a pretty jarring horror scene to kill the character that you really didn't think would be killed.
Fish Boy.
But Fish Boy, right? Yeah. So most of the movie is them tormenting them, and there's this side plot with the rookie cop and one of the girl's father, who's out
Right.
looking for her because she wasn't home when she was supposed to be.
There's a few side plots to this movie because not only with like the sheriff and the deputy and the dad of one of the missing, like the out of the four of the group, like looking for them, but there's also like the side plot of the missing cheerleaders from the high school too, which they end up discovering that this family was the one that captured this all the missing cheerleaders and are torturing them. And
The cheerleaders are kind of like the audience's introduction to this family, where
right,
before the characters even meet them, we're kind of introduced to this group of cheerleaders that went missing, that we as the audience are shown to be being tortured by Otis, essentially, and he's kind of like yelling his ideology at them. Yeah, but essentially they torment the three main characters for a while. The side plot with her dad and the cop ends in
guns blazing.
yeah, so he kills the cop and kills the dad. And I will say that shot where there's a shot where
Oh,
it
Jesus.
lingers. So there's a shot where Otis puts a gun to the cop's head as he's like kneeling on the ground, and the camera pans away for like 45 fucking actual seconds. Like, it is the longest shot, and they just sit there awkwardly for it. I'm an art student. I'm a film student. I like artsy shots. I like to linger on that shot and let the audience contemplate the moment of this and just
so
really let it sink in.
dragged.
It's really cool. But like, it goes so much past that. Like, it goes to the point where you're like, okay, I'm done thinking about this morally now. Like, I've had my time. Like, are you gonna shoot him? And yeah, it lingers for way too long.
It was such a drag scene. Like, I mean, like the whole camera shot and everything with like the soundtrack in the background and everything was like, it was a really good scene, but like it was just no needed to hold it out for 45 more seconds.
It really does. It really halts the whole movie. The music stops too. It just lingers in silence for a minute. Like the editor like just forgot to cut that scene. But so the ending of the movie is where it gets a little off the rails and wild. So they dress up the three surviving main characters as bunnies. And Otis puts on the girl's father's skin. He skins him, and he puts his skin on, and he fucking kisses her. Which is just, the first time I watched it, I didn't realize it was her dad's skin when he kissed her. But the second time, my girlfriend Raina pointed that out to me, and I was just like, oh, that's a whole nother level of fucked up.
And Otis says the most iconic line
Oh, yeah.
in the movie, which
Who's
is
your daddy?
Well, the one after that, when
Oh,
he
the other
lifts up
most
the
iconic
skin,
line.
and it's my favorite line in the movie too, because after he makes out with the teen with the dad's skin and whatnot, like creepy shit. He lifts up the mask and tells her like the boogeyman is real, and I'm just like, oh fuck, dude, that's
Yeah, the delivery on that line
very,
is
it's
very,
very chilling,
very chilling.
very,
Definitely.
very, very good iconic line there from a Bill
Definitely.
Moseley. So
Yeah, so Otis and the family, they lead these three survivors out in bunny suits, and one of the girls manages to escape. She starts running off, and Baby, the character, she runs off after her, and after a short scuffle, she stabs her to death. And the other two survivors are put in a coffin, which is lowered into a hole. And bear with me, because this gets kind of wild. So the coffin's lowered into a hole, and they play an old creepy 50s song, and it lures out these zombies, which start attacking and tearing open the coffin.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna backtrack for just 1 second, specifically when they're putting them in the coffin, because there's this one scene where they're putting Chris Hardwick's character in the coffin, but like RJ like picks up this man like he's nothing and just fucking yeets him in the coffin. I was just thinking about
Just
that
fucking
scene.
drops his ass in
Just
there.
WWE slams him into this coffin. I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No, it's a great moment. It's a great moment.
I just thought about that, and it was just like, God damn.
Yeah.
It's like so brutal.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's one of those moments that like you'd see in Terrifier, where it's a scary, brutal moment, but also a comedic moment where it's just
Right.
it's funny. Well, so anyways, yeah, so they lower this coffin with the two survivors in, and these zombies are tearing at it, and they kill Chris Hardwick's character. They tear him. I don't know. They don't really. I don't know. They don't
kill
show
him, but they like drag him off.
They definitely
pretty
drag
much.
him off into like some water and stuff. And the last surviving character, one of the girls, a whole series of strange events happens to her in the last like 5 minutes, where the zombies leave her alone for some reason, and she starts wandering through a cave, and these old guys, one in a bunny suit and one in not, tear this bunny suit off of her and then leave her alone. So then she continues down the caves, where she enters like a weird lab dungeon, and she finds Dr. Satan himself, who is in a malformed, malnutritioned, deformed state, and kind of being like held up by these ceiling rigs, which very
Which
cool
he's
shot,
also,
very out of like
pretty
killing
much
a
doing
floor.
surgery on Chris Hardwick's
Yeah,
character.
and he's literally poking and prodding at Chris Hardwick's brain, and really cool scene. And so she ends up managing to escape, long story short, and ends up clawing her way back up to the ground, where she manages to flag down the nearest driver, who happens to be the clown from the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And here was where I thought it really showed the true colors of his character, being a genuine guy, because he sees this girl, bloodied and obviously scared, and he's like, oh my God, like, okay, get in my car, like, I'm going to help you. And he's like, where can I take you? And she's like, I need to go to a hospital. And he's like, yeah, we're going to a hospital right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd think like, okay, happy ending, like at least one of the girls,
escape.
yeah, she made it out. But then Otis sits up from the back seat of the car, revealing he was in there, and then it just jump cuts to her being experimented on by Dr. Satan back in the lab, like she never made it out. And that's House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, and it was a very good twist. Like there's a few pretty good twists in that movie. Like was it the father of the family? Because they did like a little brief description of Earl J. Firefly, the whole backstory
the
about like him and Tiny and burn up the house and whatnot, and then you end up finding like Earl J. Firefly is still alive and pretty much chasing down the last girl in the moon in the movie and whatnot.
This
But,
like mindless gas mask.
yeah,
goon.
the big twist at the end there too, which is like not so happy ending as you said, and this girl gets brought back being fucking dissected by Dr. Satan.
Well, so you know more about this than I do. So you know that there are sequels and you've seen them.
Yes.
I have not, which is why and we've talked about this a little bit prior, but because our first time talking about this, my understanding was that the clown was a good guy. Because at the beginning, yeah, he kills those guys, but they're robbers. They put a gun in his face. It's kind of rural Texas vibes. So I get that. Yeah, and then he meets the girl at the end, and he's like, yes, here is help. I'm going to help you immediately.
Right.
And what the ending came off to me was that when Otis sat back up and it was revealed that she was back in Dr. Satan's lab, my understanding of the events was that she never escaped in the first place, and that Dr. Satan was experimenting on her, and this whole ending sequence where she managed to escape was all in her head due to these experiments that he was doing. And then she wakes up and he's doing shit to her brain and shit. That was my understanding, but you know a little bit more. You know that the clown is in on it. Yes.
Yeah, because if anybody has watched, like, or if you ever get the chance to watch, like, The Devil's Rejects, it shows that Sid Haig's character, Captain Spaulding, in the sequel,
the clown,
is pretty much a part of the family and, like, helps them out and whatnot. So, like, it definitely gives off a good tone that Captain Spaulding's just this normal, weird guy dressed as a clown that has this horror attraction / gas station / fried chicken sale kind of
Right.
store.
But he's not.
And more in depth, he's very a part of this family more than you would expect, and that's also like a big twist at the end too. It's just like you seem like this normal weird clown guy was actually able to help this last surviving girl, but it turns out that how I saw it is just he was also like working with that family, and like they just pretty much brought her back to that same lab of Dr. Satan's just to get tortured more and just never come out alive. So there's no happy ending to this movie, but yeah, there's actually two movies on it though. There's like I said, The Devil's
Yeah, it's a
Rejects, and then
trilogy.
Three
Trilogy.
from Hell, which that movie was decent, but we'll
We'll
probably
get in.
review
We'll get to
that in
those.
another
We'll get to
time.
those movies at some point.
But yeah, no, my thoughts and reviews on this movie, like I definitely love it. It's to me, if I were to say like a classic horror film, like there's a lot of good classic horror films, but if I were to show somebody like who hasn't seen horror or is not really too big into horror, this would be the movie to like show somebody first or like introduce them into like some kind of horror.
I would imagine you. Well, because we were talking about what should our first movie be, and you were like House of a Thousand Corpses, easy, and I was like, okay, well that's it.
Well,
Let's
because I
do
didn't
it.
want to go basic for this
Sure,
first
no.
episode and go like, oh yeah, we should do like Friday
No.
the 13th or
Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, no,
Nightmare
I get you.
Before Christmas.
I get you. No, and honestly, I'm more of a mainstream person myself. I'm not super into not deep into horror. Like my favorite horror movie is The Exorcist. So, it's a great movie, but yeah, no, I'm glad that you chose a movie like this that's definitely more a lot more in the horror genre. Like the kind of movie that you wouldn't watch if you didn't like horror. You know what I mean? And ultimately for me, my thoughts were that I like it. I would give it maybe a B, maybe like a 7-ish out of 10. Personally, I really liked it. I liked the direction it was going in. I liked everything it did cinematically. I liked the jump cuts between just like random shit where like they're pulling up in the gas station and then it's like here's a shot of a fucking corpse. It's very almost subliminal and almost gives the impression that this is like some fucked up found footage video that you found, and I really dig that vibe that it's going for. But that being said, as a horror movie, it is fairly basic, I would say.
Right.
Like, yes, the family is very cool and they steal the show in every scene they're in, but at the end of the day, they don't do anything super unique horror-wise. There aren't a ton of scenes. There's like maybe one or two scenes that you really remember as scary scenes, whereas
Right.
the rest of the movie is like, yeah, there's these four main characters that you really can't distinguish much between, and they get intertwined with this fucked up family of obvious murderers, and they're all gonna die.
Right. This movie definitely gives. It is definitely like a Texas Chainsaw
Yeah.
vibe, and like I can see definitely it being that kind of just like, oh yeah, sadistic family, like basic
Yeah.
horror.
So ultimately, I wouldn't say it's a great movie, but like you said, this isn't trying to be a great movie. This isn't
Right.
trying to be the next Exorcist. It's very much just trying to be a fun B movie, and as that, it succeeds. It blows it out of the water. Because there is something to be said about just sitting down and turning your brain off and watching a fun, cheesy B movie.
Yeah.
And if this was the goal, which it very much seems like it was, not so much cheesy, but making a good horror B movie, absolutely. This is
Right.
absolutely what if you want to come home after a day at work and sit on your couch and put on a horror movie and just make some popcorn and just kind of relax for a bit, this is exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
You just sometimes in that situation, when you're tired, you came home from work, you kind of want to relax. You don't want to think forever about something you're watching. You might not want to watch something super in depth like maybe Hereditary or Midsummer, for example, where it's very psychological, in depth horror that makes you
Right.
think and there's meaning to it and stuff. Sometimes you just want to watch
Just something
a
just
group
out
of
of
characters
pocket
get
and
killed
just out of
by
nowhere.
a weird family, man. Yeah.
It's I would
it's
say
great. It's wonderful.
it's definitely, I mean, for my perspective, it's definitely like, I really like this movie a lot, and I kind
Definitely.
of like
It's a
grew
great
up
movie.
watching this movie a lot. And I would give this movie a good like 7.5 out of 8.
Sure.
Like 8 out of 10,
7.5 out of 8.
Yeah, 7 point. Sorry, hold on. 7.5 to
Hold on,
8 out of 10.
Let me get my
I
calculator.
know, for real. I can't word things right sometimes, but yeah.
No, you're good.
No, man. So yeah, that's pretty much House of a Thousand Corpses.
That's it,
and
man.
no, I'm glad I kind of chose this one for it being the first
Me too,
episode,
honestly.
because it's just like you said, it's just a fun, just out of pocket, crazy B movie horror film, and it's just it's great.
One thing I've always wanted to do is go to like a drive-in movie and watch like an old 50s B movie, like one of those movies where the bad guy is a tarantula.
This movie is definitely like one of those movies to watch at a drive-in.
Yes,
like
definitely,
if I were to go to drive-in and watch House of a Thousand Corpses, I would totally spend my money on that.
Absolutely,
shit.
Yeah. Like, that's what this movie's going for, is that drive-in B movie horror vibe.
Oh yes, man!
Great movie.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's about time to wrap it up, Justin.
Yes, sir. So, if you guys haven't yet, follow us on Instagram at Terrorvision Podcast.
Definitely.
Like and follow us on Facebook at Terrorvision. So, so we're still in the process of trying to change our name on Facebook. So it's Terrorvison with Justin and Alex. We're trying to change it back to Vision, but I got too excited making these social accounts, so I misspelled one and I had to wait 60 days. But yes, follow us on Facebook and give us a like too on Facebook.
I'll try to post this wherever I can.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll give you guys more info about where you can stream our podcast on. We're thinking about doing like Spotify and iTunes and all that kind of stuff, but we'll give you guys more details on that on our social media pages. Special thank you for all the viewers and support for tuning into the social media pages and just following us and trying to build up our just this podcast, man. Like, we can't thank you guys enough. And also a special thanks to Diego Gonzalez for making that sick ass intro for us.
That intro is sick.
We really wanted to do like this trap intro, but it was fun. But we're too white for this and very geeky.
I was
like, just like, it doesn't fit us.
I was like, I like it, but we gotta drop the trap.
But yes, very, very, very big special thanks to Diego.
So happy with it.
Yeah, we can't thank you enough for helping us out with that intro, and it's such a good intro. Love it so much.
And thank you to the listener for listening till the end here. We really appreciate you guys listening to the whole thing here.
But yeah, follow us on social media. We'll keep you updated on our streams and streaming platforms or wherever you can tune in for our podcasts. And until next time, I'm Justin.
And I'm Alex.
And thank you for listening to Terrorvision with Justin and Alex.